Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Sunday talk within the Nine-Sided Circle. We're meeting at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time now that we are on our third Sunday of every month. And if this is a great time for you, then you're welcome to join us next month on, let's see, yeah, December 21st is going to be our next other talk Sunday where we meet at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time instead of our usual time at 6:30 p.m. So I am your host, Noor Kyle,
And I am her loyal sidekick, Mushtaq Ali.
as always. And thank you so much for joining us. Let's give you a little preview of what we're going to be talking about today. Mushtaq, what are we going to be talking
We
about?
are going to be looking at the question of what was G.I. Gurdjieff's meaning in the existential sense, and what was his purpose uh, in the behavioral sense. And it's a question that I don't think gets asked. So it might be fun to take a look at it.
Yeah, we're kind of letting him be subject and not just object today, aren't we?
Yeah.
So, before we get into that, though, we want to welcome you, of course. Thank you for watching us, whether you're watching on the replay or you're hanging out with us live. Thank you so much for spending time with us. And of course, you know some of the ways that you can support this work if you want to see more of it is to subscribe to our channel. Please do that if you haven't. We would love to count you among us and to have you join us again and again if that's something that you're feeling as well. And you can like this video if you end up enjoying it. You can leave comments if you want to offer what came up for you, what questions you have. Even feedback is welcome, but of course, be respectful in offering that feedback. That means a lot to us to have people engaged. And we are, of course, still doing one-on-ones and two-on-ones. Mushtaq and I love to work with people to help them in their work, and we'll be elaborating on what we mean by the work today as well. And if you'd love to support us in other ways, we have donation links. We are going to be officially starting our fund drive for this year on November 20th. And if you have already donated with the fund drive in mind, we are counting you in. So you are not left behind in that. It's just that we're going to be doing all the official, banners and all that stuff.
Yeah. And they're starting to send stuff out.
Yes, inshallah, God willing. So. Thank you so much for hanging in there with us. Thank you for your support. It really means a lot, especially during the end of the year. We got to get those bills paid to continue this work, to support our channel, not just our channel, but everything we do within the Nine-Sided Circle is a collaborative effort. So thank you so much. All right. Have I left anything out, Mushtaq?
Probably, but who cares?
Yeah. Let's
Yeah.
get to our topic today.
Yeah. So the question is, what is the meaning of Gurdjieff's life? And the simple answer is to awaken. He wanted to awaken himself, and he wanted to leave a way for others to awaken.
Yep.
Um, Few words, big meaning. If you think about what he did, he made his entire writing project a single arc. First, to shatter the comforting illusions, as he said, then to supply new material, and finally, to help the reader form a real picture of reality, not fantasy. That's literally how he defined his All and Everything series. You know, as a young man, he had pretty profound questions. He wanted to know the aim of human life. Um, and that became his animating activity. From his work, he framed a practical path uh, for modern life, one that was not well known at the time, because it didn't require you go off and be a monk or a yogi or do all of this kind of stuff. It was living in the world. At the end of his path, you have presence, real presence. The I am of life is only real then when I am.
Hmm.
Um, he also aimed to serve the good of others. And um,
Yeah, so this wasn't just about cultivating himself.
yeah,
It was about building a they talk about building a ladder and then pulling it up behind you so no one else can climb up. But he wanted to leave that ladder behind and create an opportunity or a structure or a way for people to continue to do the same.
now one may ask, what the heck did Gurdjieff mean by awaken? And he observed, this was his phenomenological observation, is that human beings have two subjective states, night sleep and waking life sleep.
Quote unquote waking
Yeah.
life, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and he thought that awakening begins when one starts to remember oneself. And that is the third state of consciousness between after sleeping sleep and waking sleep is the state of remembering yourself. And that's an ambiguous phrase that we will undoubtedly go into later in the talk.
Hmm.
In practice, Gurdjieff used to refer to this as divided attention, but it's not. Uh, it's expanded attention.
Yeah.
And to
And
give you a sense of what that means, uh, imagine a rubber duck. Imagine a pine cone. Now imagine the rubber duck. Imagine the pine cone. Imagine the rubber duck. Imagine the pine cone. That is divided attention. What he was doing is actually better to be called expanded attention. So experience the rubber duck and the pine cone as one experience held together, not flipping back and forth, not dividing your attention.
inclusive attention.
Yes.
Yes. As opposed to, trying to mash them together. We're not trying to do that. Kitty. Sorry, I got distracted by someone's cat joining the chat. So, inclusive attention is critical here. Expanding focus, says RM.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
another way of saying it. But
Yes.
focus tends to compact things rather than expand things. So you could say a soft focus, an open focus. Uh,
Expanded focus.
yeah, expanded focus, all of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Now, this state appears first in brief flashes. It's hard to hold. It's hard to stay conscious while doing this. And it takes a certain amount of practice to actually hold this for any meaningful amount of time. And a lot of people get depressed because of this and go wandering off.
Because it's tiring and people
Yeah.
feel unsuccessful at it.
Yeah. And the analogy is very much like you haven't worked out in years and you go to the gym and you go over to the kettlebells and you pick up a 20 kilo kettlebell and you try and lift it off the ground and it doesn't work. You have to start with the 1 kilo kettlebell. And when you can lift that off the ground for a while, then you can go and begin increasing the weight. But
Yep.
your attention is almost exactly analogous to this. If you have not been working your attention like you're working your pecs, then your attention is going to be not very useful.
Yep. I'm always saying get the reps in, but also get the reps in ways that are meeting yourself where you're at. So as Mushtaq's saying, start with the 1 pound weights. Get the reps in with those. Set yourself up for success, but with the building up of those muscles, you'll also be developing discernment on when perhaps you need to challenge yourself a little bit more.
Y'all understand what I mean by this, right?
Yeah. At least, yes, people here are nodding
Yeah.
yes.
Good.
I do have a quick question,
Yes.
Yes.
which is what is the 1 pound weight equivalent for awareness expansion?
That is a good
You're
question.
going to have to find that out for yourself. So hold your attention on something. Doesn't matter what. And notice how long it takes you to have an attentional blink where your attention goes off the thing that you are focusing on. That's your 1 pound weight, that amount of time. So for most people, you'll get an attentional blink every 10 seconds to 30 seconds.
Maybe even faster than that if it's a day where you have a lot of distractions or things going on that you feel like you need to devote time and energy to. If you have a to-do list going and you're feeling the pressure of that, it may be a little bit harder to hold that 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Yes,
But with practice, you begin to.
mhm.
So your default 1 pound weight is the amount of time you can hold your attention without having an attentional blink. RM points out that lack of sleep can impact a lot, and this is
Yeah.
definitely true.
Hmm.
If you are very fatigued, it is hard to hold your attention.
Yeah.
Same with lifting weights. If you've had 2 hours of sleep the night before and you go into the gym, you're not going to hit your personal best that day by uh, all accounts.
That's why recovery is a thing. And we do talk about rest and recovery when we talk about doing the work. We do that often. So, yes, some days are more challenging than others, says RM. This is true. We build stamina and resilience along the way.
So, in Gurdjieff's terms, awakening is to shift from mechanical life to sustain self-remembering. Self-remembering allows you to step away from uh, your conditioning. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, Gurdjieff entitled his last book, which he sadly never finished, which is Life is Real Only Then When I Am. When he says life is real, now we have a question.
Do we? Oh, yes. Eduardo. Do you need help unmuting, maybe? I'll give it a try. Ed, are you with us?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I just unmuted you. I hope that's
Woo,
okay.
thanks.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to do this.
All right, no
Uh,
worries.
that whole idea of self-remembering, when I hear it, now I think about remembering which self, but you kind of pointed in in the direction. But can you expand upon what exactly are you saying there? Remembering what self?
Well, that's what you need to find out. The idea of as the way Gurdjieff uses it of self-remembering is to begin to find the one permanent I. We're just about to address this,
Hmm.
uh, rather than the small random selves that a person has. His contention is that self-remembering is what builds that I. Does that make sense?
So are you saying that this is an I that one builds over time, or are you saying that this is an I that exists that we have to find?
I'm saying that Gurdjieff says that it's an I that we have to build over time.
Ah,
Um, my experience tends to go along with this. Most people who think they have an I change eyes like people change socks, probably more often. And demonstrating that is interesting. But that's one of the things that self-remembering helps you to do is that you will observe yourself, and this is self-observation as well. You will observe yourself switching eyes.
I've done that on many occasions, switching, well, actually, yeah, watching, observing myself as the eyes begin to take form, and I realize that neither one of these eyes are me, but then what's left?
What's left? And for this, I have to reel back to um, a text like the Yoga Sutras that make a distinction between the eyes, the little eyes, and awareness itself. And the Yoga Sutras say awareness itself is at the core of all of this. What it uses, the Sanskrit term is Bod, which we get the word Buddha from. So it would be that which watches the eyes shift around.
I guess what kind of make it a little difficult is because it doesn't have any form, at least any form that I know of anyway.
Well,
Like the personality, we know that on this personality here, it has this particular form. It does this amount of these certain things. But this is a little bit more elusive here.
yeah, if you're
Mm.
talking about form, you're talking about an object presented to awareness,
Mm-hmm.
not awareness itself.
Yes.
So, uh, we can get in long discussions about form and essence, but
For another time.
yeah, but these are good questions.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
Yes, Ian.
Yeah, I have a characterization of this, and as we were talking, I sort of condensed it as the eye behind the eyes. And one of the things stemming from past talks is that I've really started to see the little eyes, instead of talking of them as I think of them as, I was going to say the robot, but actually a bunch of different robots, and then looking at them as, most recently I started thinking of them as like AI agents, where a
Interesting.
lot of them are just, they're like how to walk upstairs. When I'm walking upstairs, one of these agents is in charge and it knows how to do it. And then when I stop walking upstairs, it goes off, and another one gets involved. But there's sort of a higher level, which is what we normally think of as these little eyes, which sort of are more to do with intent. And I've been meaning to dig more deeply into the notion of buffers, but one of the things I have noticed is that there's buffers between the intents of these different eyes that are, because they're often in blatant contradiction when you see them. But if you're not paying attention, you just switch from one to the other, and so you're in your intentions get lost.
That's a good
Um,
observation, Ian.
Yeah. And I think it's pretty near-fetched. One of the more interesting things I used to do back when I was a therapist was to remove the buffers between two different eyes in a person and let them talk.
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of hesitant to mention. I mean, I know you did that kind of before internal family systems became such a
Yeah, it's what
thing.
internal family systems came out of because somebody
Yeah,
wanted to have a really strict model of this.
right.
But,
Exactly. That's my hesitation. If you're familiar with internal family systems, this whole thing about multiple eyes may make a little bit more sense to you in terms of how what this feels like. But I want to caution us against getting too rigid about the realness, quote unquote, in the sense of like, oh, yeah, these are real multiple entities inside of me. I know some people may challenge me and say that they are. My premise is that they're not. And we are trying to help them bind together into what we're calling a unified eye.
yeah, and we will get lost down the rabbit hole if we talk too
Yes,
much about that right now.
exactly. So let's stick a pin in that and let's return to the topic at hand, shall we? But thank you for bringing up
Yeah.
such good
But it
questions,
makes me
everyone.
think that one day we will do a retreat where we spend most of it collapsing people's eyes together.
That would be cool.
It will be
Well,
interesting.
it might be challenging for lots of us, but that's definitely worth some thought. Thank you, Mushtaq.
So we left off at life is real. Life
Ah,
actually experienced is real, not just thought about or reacted to. Um, our ordinary awakening, according to Gurdjieff, is mostly automatic. Associative thought, identification, habits. In that condition, life passes, but you haven't lived it by a present I. Do you understand that?
people here do. Yes.
Yeah, people here do. Then the next part of that phrase, only then when I am. Life is real, only then when I am. I
Mhm.
am is the felt state of self-remembering, the felt state of awareness of the body, the third state of consciousness. a collected attention where body sensation, feeling, and thought are simultaneously included, and an unborrowed sense of oneself is present. Uh, it is the sense of being here now, to quote Baba Ram Das. Be here now. Don't be there then. So you could parse that as reality for me and responsibility begin only in presence. Without the I am, and to tell you the truth, I hate using that term because it's been so abused.
It's got a lot of, I mean, it
Got a
can carry a
huge
lot of
amount
baggage.
of baggage.
Yeah.
Uh,
Lots
Actually, the
of,
son of Elizabeth Clare Prophet just came out with a bit of a biographical work about what it was like to grow up around these whack jobs.
mm,
Uh,
didn't you
and
raise
it's
any people who
fascinating.
really cling on to that? Yeah.
Yeah.
As a phrase. I mean, they cling
Yeah.
to it as a phrase.
One of the things in Arabic that um that I grew up hearing is أعوذ بالله من كلمة أنا. I take refuge with God from the word I am.
Oh, oh my
Yeah,
God.
That's
Love
nice.
that.
yeah, yeah. So it's really interesting. It does have like uh, it's heavily charged, right? Ana
Yes.
or I am, the connectedness with the ego and the realness of it and all of that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
That's fascinating. I had never heard that.
I hadn't either.
Yeah.
So I'm let's talk more about that later.
Yeah. Arabic
Can
continues to open up secrets that we know about.
what a cool thing. RM is saying, can you write it in the chat so that she can save it? Thanks, Osama. Yeah. Um, thank you for that, Osama. Okay, so where were we?
We were talking about perception um, in this state, which, for lack of a better term, we are calling I am, uh,
In the context of Gurdjieff.
in the
Yeah.
context of Gurdjieff, not anything else. Uh, the real I begins to take form when you do this, when you are uh, working within the present moment, and more so when you do the present moment exercise, which we've talked about a whole bunch of times. Yes, this all dovetails into the stuff that we've been talking about for the last month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
The
Of course
present
it does.
moment exercise is the quickest, most powerful way to produce and maintain the uh, experience of awareness, of true awareness. And what this produces is the fourth state of consciousness, which is objective consciousness. What is that?
Mm.
The fourth state of consciousness, after sleep, ordinary waking sleep, and self-remembering, comes objective consciousness. And that is seeing, seeing things as they really are, not through personal likes, fears, or automatic associations. Perception is impartial, exact, and penetrating. Now, I will be the first to tell you that this is, as long as you are in a human body, as long as your I manifests through your humanity, this is not quite possible. So the idea of objective consciousness is a little tricky. I don't quite have a better word for it right now, because the other words for it are even worse than objective consciousness is. Mm,
Are you trying to think of another way to put it?
yeah, basically, this is the breakdown of the conditioned self.
Mm, okay. So, I mean, this is kind of, I guess we could think of it as you collapse all these false eyes, and what are you left with?
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that often what you're left with is not much. When I was a young dervish, I was hanging out at a khanaga, and one of the dervishes there, who was a friend, went through a transformative experience where his mechanical eye was effaced, basically. And he was um, almost non-functional. So being as this was a Sufi joint, rather than shipping him off to a hospital, they put him to work making tea. And sometimes it would take him an hour to make one pot of tea because he would get lost in the perception of what he was doing. You look into the little tea niche, and he would be standing there holding the water and just looking at the beauty of the water in a completely uh, almost innocent way, like he had never seen it before. And it was, in fact, as if he had never seen it before. And the only thing that would happen when he was found in that state is somebody would remind him that we needed tea. And he'd go, oh, and they'd go back to doing it. I talked to the Sheikh of the Khanaga, and he said he needs to rebuild his self because his essence was never matured. And so when he's running off essence, he doesn't have all of these routines that made him the competent, witty person that he had been before. After 2 months, maybe, he was completely functional again. He had um, crafted an eye that worked for him in the world, that was not necessarily connected to identification with the little subroutines of his mind. I found this interesting. And that's a little bit what this is like. I don't recommend going that route for obvious reasons. But objective consciousness is active. Uh,
Yes, Ian.
Yeah, while you were talking about that, I was reminded of the fact that in Ouspensky, he describes situations where Gurdjieff um, switched people into their essence mode. And if I remember correctly, he talks about how some people are basically undeveloped and in that state. And then I think I remember there was one guy who was actually really much more developed, and I can't remember the word. I'm tempted to say fully functional, but I don't think that's it.
yeah, it's hard to say. He was using hypnosis to do that. And because I wasn't there and I didn't see the process by which he opened those states, I don't know what he was actually getting, which is why I'm kind of avoiding talking about that because I can't talk from an experience that I didn't have with them, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's the same sort of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, so objective consciousness is active. It gives you a sense of rightness as to what you're doing that is not imposed from outside and not negotiable by the personality. Um, and it's an interesting state. My sense of it is that it is a state that if it were not matured, would be a form of psychopathy.
Yeah, I mean, as I feel into it now, I think you're right about that.
Yeah,
That feels
I've had teachers tell me that the distance between the saint and the psychopath is that of a knife's edge.
there's such a coolness, I mean, in the sense of emotional temperature that it could go either way.
Yeah, and the reason it goes towards the saint rather than the psychopath is because the saint has developed conscience, which is the other thing that is essential in this. So, what it is not, it's not cleverness. It's not inspiration or peak emotional experience. It is not simply being mindful. Self-remembering is the gateway, but objective consciousness is beyond that. A stable, luminous clarity in which truth is directly known. So, how do you know if you're getting it? Impartiality appears almost by itself. Identification drops. You can include opposing facts without inner strain. That's a big one. Plato was it? No, it was Aristotle who said something about that, being able to hold two opposing ideas at one time and not getting identified with either of them. So there's no what we think of as negative emotion. I think of negative emotion as wallowing in pain emotions. And you tell yourself the truth. and there's a direct understanding. Sounds like a good state, doesn't it? How do you get there? Continuity of self-remembering. You work that practice, muhasabah, muraqabah. Those two things, self-remembering and self-observation, or self-observation and self-remembering. Non-identification and struggle against, I hate the term negative emotion, struggle against the emotional states that pull you away from the present.
I think that's the best way to put it. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter what it is, good or bad, does it pull you away from the present moment? And that kind of neutralizes this judgment factor about, uh, you know, welcome and unwelcome, positive and negative emotions.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because as you were just describing that, I was thinking that when people can be happy and it takes them away from the present moment just as
Yeah,
much as
absolutely.
yeah.
something else. I'd never heard it characterized so well before. It gives it a much more broader context.
Yeah. Noor, write that down.
All right.
Osama.
Yeah, I had a interesting experience when I was in Montreal recently. Um, I was supposed to leave to drive down from Montreal on Monday morning, and there was snow, so I decided not to drive in the snow. And that day was okay. I was like, okay, this is what the reality is right now, and I'm gonna adjust myself in order to stay here another day. And then something I just made the decision somehow that I'm for sure leaving on Tuesday morning. And I everything is packed. I wake up early Tuesday morning and there's even more snow than
You
Monday.
forgot to say inshallah.
Right. And and it was such a challenging day because somehow my mind has projected myself as if I'm in New Jersey. And that day I felt like I overstayed um my I don't know, like I overstayed my stay, I guess. Um and it was such a hard thing to be present in that moment. Even, I'm trying to really come present, but my mind is like already projected itself to be in New Jersey. And it felt this like, okay, come back. We're here now. We're here. Um, so that as you guys mentioned, these things that stop us from not negative or good or bad or whatever, but stopping us from being in the moment. Um, and mind projection I experienced is something that's pretty challenging for me when the mind already set for something and it's the reality itself is something else and trying to pull it back to be we're here now. Now what?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, just wanted to share that experiences. It seems it fits in that veils from the moment.
Yes. Thank you, Osama. Yeah, that's a really interesting example because it's like it's different from what people normally think of as, emotional distractions, like, oh, happy or sad or depressed or anxious. This was like, I feel like I want to get I want to get things moving. I should be there. I should be doing things there. That's like a very common, but I think a little more fuzzy experience than people might typically point to. So thank you for that. Yeah. All right.
So one of the things for the awakening of objective consciousness is the right conditions. If you don't have the right conditions, it's not going to happen. What are the right conditions? First of all, shared work.
Mhm.
Without that, it's much harder. This that we are doing here is not shared work. It is creating the conditions where you can go out and find people that you can share the work with. The emphasis is on the you. You do not need to have a piece of paper that says you can work with people on this. I mean, we'd send you one if you want. I'll write it out on a piece of binder paper and sign it and say, yeah, you can do it. But that doesn't mean anything. What means something is your own intention. So wherever you are in the world, there are other people who are interested in doing the work. You can find them. You can bring them together with you. And you can do the work together. And it becomes easier as long as you stay away from the hierarchical bullshit. Talk about that in a minute. Why does it matter? Because only in objective consciousness do knowledge, being, and responsibility come into line and produce fruit. So why do we care about Gurdjieff's life and what he was doing? Are we indulging in some sort of hero worship?
I would like to think that's not really our
Oh, that's definitely not our thing.
yeah. Much to some folks' chagrin. Yeah.
Yep. Now, if you want to do hero worship, there are plenty of Gurdjieff groups out there who will help you with that. We are not a Gurdjieff group, as I keep liking to point out.
Mhm.
One thing about Gurdjieff's claims is that they are testable in daily life.
Yeah. His hypotheses are things that we can, as Mushtaq said, test out through our own experience and through our own actions.
Yeah. And it gives a clear diagnosis of why we suffer needlessly.
Mm,
Gurdjieff's idea of mechanicalness explains why we repeat patterns we don't endorse.
womp womp. Yeah.
What this can give you is an ability to care about having more say over what uses your time, your energy, and your attention. And it links truth to being. Understanding deepens when your state changes. And it cultivates consciousness rather than ideology.
Yeah. Conscience.
Yeah.
Yes. Conscience allowing us to, I mean, this is part of being a human adult, as we discussed. Conscience is not driven by other people's ideas, other people's insistences on right and wrong. Conscience is something you build within yourself about your values and how right action manifests through you.
One of the best things about the Gurdjieff method is that uh, it integrates the whole body, emotion, mind, body, mind, spirit, whatever you want to call it. It integrates them all together and works in the world with them. Most paths privilege one channel. That was his whole argument with the way of the fakir, the way of the monk, and the way of the yogi, is that each of those ways put the primacy on one particular aspect, whether it is sensation or emotion or mentation. And it is necessary for all three of those to be together. And the coolest thing is it gives you a laboratory to work in. That's again where groups done well create feedback. And you can't get that feedback by yourself.
Mm-mm. That's part
One,
of the game of the false eyes is to,
yes, one
give
thing
yourself up talk or
obviously
down
true.
talk.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mushtaq, go ahead.
One thing is obviously true, which is nobody can lie to you like you can.
Yeah.
And the main duty of a teacher is to tell you when you're full of shit. Kindly, gently, in a way that you'll understand. But that's mostly what real teachers do is they point out when you're lying to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
which is why people don't like hanging out with real teachers, in my experience.
Generally true. I mean, it's the exception that someone looks for that.
So here's the existential diagnosis of this whole situation. Your default state equals bad faith. Gurdjieff's sleep maps to existential inauthenticity. We run by roles, reactions, and followed meanings. Uh, there's motion, but little authorship. I really enjoyed writing out this section because it harkens back to my otherwise misspent youth when I was hanging out with my philosophy professor working on his book.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're borrowing rather than developing your own. That's our everyday.
Yeah. We inherit a personality, habits, a culture, but lack stable I. And for Gurdjieff, he wanted to become the real author of his life. Not a belief, not a state, but an actual authorship. He wanted to unite knowing and being. And his purpose, that's his meaning, his purpose towards the world is a project of freedom for others. He built forums, schools, movements, all of that kind of stuff, books, uh, to make awakening repeatable. Whether or not he succeeded on that is a whole different argument. Um,
It's what he
but
strove for.
that's what he strove for. That is what he worked his whole life for, trying any number of ways.
Mhm.
And he created an ethic of responsibility. And his work aimed towards objective consciousness.
Objective conscience. Yep.
Yeah, both.
Both. Yeah. Um, yeah. So, I mean, that's he wanted folks to be able to choose from a place of relationship to actual reality, not just, likes and dislikes or what people believe to be true or what people insist on, family, friends, culture. He wanted people to do the hard work of developing that sense of self-responsibility. Not easy, especially when you have so many sources ready to hand an ideology that takes all the discernment out of it for you.
So, how do you do this? First, face the condition. Admit to sleep. Admit to your own self-deception. Second, choose a project. The project is awaken, stabilize self-remembering. Now, here's the third one and the most fun. Practice freedom.
Hmm.
That requires non-identification, expanded attention, intentional effort, conscious labor, intentional suffering, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Or
Own the consequences. Act from conscience. Take proportionate responsibility and build a world for yourself.
yeah.
Create that around you which sustains authenticity.
This is all the stuff that, ideologies want to hand a facsimile of to you.
Yeah. And Gurdjieff rejected all of that, and sometimes to his detriment.
Mm,
As far as I can tell, he never took bayat with any of the teachers that he worked with. He wanted to remain separate from them. And so he never got the really good stuff, oftentimes, because it requires a bit more of a commitment that he was willing to make.
yeah. I mean, that's I could say, I guess, the shadow of this, right? Like
Yeah.
the thing that we need to be careful of is as we reject the bindings of ideology, can we also keep in mind that connection and learning from people who have been through that struggle already? Could there be something there for us to gain from? Yes, Ian.
I just you used the word uh bayat, which I don't
Bayat,
Yeah,
it means
initiation.
initiation. It
Yeah,
means,
like,
oh
it literally means taking hand. And it is the process by which somebody is brought into the chain of initiatic energy.
ooh, so fancy.
Yeah. It's where you promise to obey the sheikh, everything that he says, no matter how weird. Not really. In
thanks.
one sense, it's a
Mhm.
contract between teacher and student. And in another sense, it is plugging you into the baraka of the order.
Yep. Contract of mutual responsibility.
Yep.
Yep.
Now, one of the questions that I find interesting is, did he transmit his work so others could author themselves? And my answer is mostly no.
Woof.
Yeah. I think it was in part because of his own personality. I think the one exception might have been Madame de Salzman. Um, but I don't know for sure. Never met her. I have a sense that she did serious work, but she's gone now, so who can say? But by and large, I look at the people around him, and this includes Orange and Bennett and Nicole and all of these folks. They never made it to what he was aiming for. They got halfway up the mountain, maybe.
Mm, that sounds pretty grim, Mishtak.
It is. And this is the struggle that we have had for centuries. You get a teacher. Now, I'm not saying that this was Gurdjieff. I suspect that he just did not know how to successfully bring a number of different kinds of people into the states that he was aiming for. He admitted he was experimenting with his students for most of his life. And if you're experimenting, it means you don't know the steps exactly. You're looking for the steps. And this is one of the problems with his not having gone deeper into the traditions that he was exploring. But he didn't, as far as we can tell. Of course, it's hard to tell.
It's hard to tell looking in from the outside with any
Yeah.
person.
The only way that you can know for sure is meeting someone face to face and having a station that is as high or higher than theirs. If you don't, you are not going to discern their station. Station using the English version of the Arabic maqam, the place of your own development. And that's kind of hard because if you are stuck in your own mechanical nature, you're not going to perceive anything else. It's a problem. Did he complete his project? Hard to say. He didn't finish his third series, the Life is Only Real Then When I Am book.
Because he
Uh,
passed away before he could.
no, he stopped it
He
before he passed
stopped.
away. Yeah, and
Hmm.
then he went into other things. He turned his back on it at that point. He may have decided that it wasn't going where he wanted it to go.
Hmm.
Um, his schools failed, and a lot of that was not his fault, I have to say. World War II made the work really hard, and he managed to struggle through it and keep on going. Uh,
Yeah, we
but
can address
yeah,
that later. The chat, I mean.
yeah, we'll get to that in just a second. One of the questions is, did his project scale responsibly? And Madame de Saltzman explicitly framed the work as collective practice under the guidance of the teaching, not a charismatic leader, with emphasis on conscience, presence, and mutual exchange. That reduces the personality cult risk and aligns with existential responsibility. So we can make judgments after the fact. And there is not absolute evidence one way or the other. We can look at what other people have witnessed. We have not witnessed this ourselves. We have certain flags, either red flags or green flags. One of which is that presence is transmissible. You know, my teacher used to point out the signs of a true sheikh, one of which is that when you are with them, you feel better because their presence lifts your burden for a little bit. There is no theatrical holiness. And that throws people off. Last year, when we were in India, one of the things that I kept hearing was, Mushtaq doesn't seem like a teacher.
Mm.
Nobody has to kiss his feet. He doesn't let anybody wait on him hand and foot. And that was literally throwing some of the Indians off.
Yeah, they did not know how to respond to our actual explicit ask not to give us super special treatment and all of that stuff. That was very
It was unsettling for
it
them.
was unsettling, yes.
Ian, what do you think?
I was just going to comment that from my own early experiences with what I call Hindu baggage,
Mm.
I totally understand why Indians would expect that.
Yeah.
It's just what happens there.
Hmm.
I'm sure Alka would confirm that.
Oh, yeah.
She would, yes. Yep. She
So
had
she was
to.
having a delightful time watching it, I have to say.
Yeah. Yeah, she kind of had to like reassure them that they were not doing anything wrong by, respecting our wishes. Yeah.
So this boils down to we can see certain things. First is charisma does not equal presence. The second is aesthetic performance, ascetic performance, self sleep deprivation, odd diets, taking on hardships, does not equal intentional suffering.
Mm-mm.
Esoteric talks and secret maps do not equal higher understanding. And busyness in the work forms does not equal inner work. So you use that as a test for yourself, not necessarily for anybody else, but for you. So your job is to keep testing, to take what helps you and your own sobriety of conscience and refuse dependency. If you find yourself dependent on a school, a group, or a teacher, you may have strayed off the path.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Gurdjieff was trying so hard to avoid dependency that he took it like way far in the opposite direction. But the thing that we're talking about is, even as you invite spiritual companionship into your life, how do you hold that in balance with the fact that you will have to do things on your own, that you will have to stand on your own 2 feet and walk through your own struggles? Can you turn to others for support, depend on others, be interdependent with others while refusing to give up your own agency? Never betray that. It's not worth it. Yeah. Any questions right now? We've covered a lot of bases.
We have. And RM has something here. It's a long thing.
Yeah, it's um first of all, uh something we said amused Palon. RM then says, yeah, no, I mean that's absolutely relevant. RM says overcompensation and overwork in any realm is not ideal in mind, body, and soul. Y- Yes, I mean the idea is for us to grow our capacity through practice and repetition, but not to the point where we're crashing into diminishing returns. And that means depriving yourself of food, sleep, um, relief from suffering to the extent that that's needed to keep you going. You don't want to push yourself so hard that it's like killing you to do this kind of work. That's ridiculous. That's not our goal. That's not
Yeah.
this path.
Yeah. People do not understand true intentional effort, in my
Mm.
opinion.
Conscious suffering.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so what you get, and this is in some ways Gurdjieff's fault because he would run people into the ground on a frequent basis. But he got that from other places as well. The idea that you must exhaust yourself consciously and go without sleep and go without food is stupid. It is what cults use to brainwash you.
To make you malleable.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want
And the
to,
Moonies were masters of this. This is
yeah.
how they caught so many people. Come up to our place, have a free dinner. Next thing you know, they're shipping you off by bus up to their compound, and you're living off of rice and water and working for hours, and you're so exhausted that you'll believe anything that they tell you.
Mm, yes. Yes. See, as a caveat, and I want to be very clear that this is a very careful, controlled exception, is, let's say for your own purposes, you are looking to do I don't know, maybe you have some purpose for utilizing an altered state. There are reasons why you might do that. But that's not something that you do consistently because the fact is we're trying to work in everyday state, everyday reality. And we want to be able to apply whatever skills we build through doing this work to the affairs of the everyday and not just escape to fantasy land and, mystic fairy tales. Not that mysticism is necessarily false or fairy tale in itself, but so often it becomes a tool for escapism and entrenching us in the the things we're trying to divest from in doing this work. Any other thoughts? Yes, Osama.
Yeah. That like the whole discernment aspect um of okay being on guard, right? Of like I'm not gonna go into a group that's gonna tell me you know don't eat for whatever period of time or don't sleep and all that kind of stuff. And kind of like what you just shared, Noor, of like sometimes there's this feeling of internally, not necessarily having to do with groups or anything like that, but of a certain level of verification, right? Like um reading something or seeing something or hearing something. It's like, okay, let me test that for myself. What is actually happening in those kind of states? Um, and it reminds me of this shift between the quote unquote second station of the soul, um, uh, nafs al-lawwama, the self-blaming, doubtful self, and the inspired self, which, if I remember correctly, the way that it's described in the Quran is that it's inspired by the discernment of what's good and what's bad, quote unquote. What's
Mm.
just having the inspiration or the faculty of discernment of which direction to go. Um, and it seems like the movement is, and what I hear uh, you guys talking about and Mustafa mentioning is that just being able to discern, having that faculty of discernment, uh, be self-reliable, meaning not somebody else is going to tell me this or that. I can take it into account, but also taking the fact that it's also coming with projections and it's coming with their own coloring. So for me to be able to discern of what's coming in, what's for me and what's not, and which direction that I can move. Um, yeah, I hope that was clear. I'm not sure.
Well, I think I understood the gist of what you were saying for sure. Like this sense of like, mm, let me give it a shot. Like the practice of, shall we say, exploring for the sake of discernment and not just taking what other people are offering you at face value, even with the best of intentions. I mean, there definitely is something to be said about the wisdom of others' experience, but the whole point is for those of higher experience or, broader experience to be able to support you in developing that wisdom for yourself. Yeah. With as much care and not going too far off the rails, to hurt yourself as possible. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Osama. Ian.
Yeah, I was just going to go back to something that really struck me earlier on in the talk. It was when you were talking about the fact that Gurdjieff explicitly um, rejected the idea of one-sided development, whether it be physical, emotional, or intellectual. And because what I wanted, one of the things I think I have got most out of it with this group is starting to get a more complete picture of that. And in particular, in recently, when you've talked about sensing the body,
Mm.
that's something I've started to do much more. And I'm still in early days of that, but I've been finding it something that has been most helpful.
Yay.
Yeah, I, I wanted to mention it because it's something that I was totally blind to for a long time. I mean,
Mhm.
I knew Gurdjieff talked about it, but in terms of what it might practically mean, I literally had no idea. And so it's been very helpful to start getting that overall perspective.
Wonderful. And to actually have that experience of sensing the body, I think is a really good way for creating balance, increased balance for you. Thank you for sharing that. RM says, in my opinion, you get the real life tests daily. So learning we cannot run away from, an application of knowledge as well. I used to be an information junkie, but then I didn't think that that was helping with conscious development. What really helped me was staying in real life, doing things and observing. Yes, it's not easy at all. Amen. Anybody else have thoughts that they might like to share? How's it going for you, Jill? What's on your mind?
I really keyed in on the phrase an unborrowed sense of oneself. And as I
Mm,
was hearing Osama reflect on that discernment, how, yeah, that level of discernment from inside to reflect what's been taken on from others, either through training or thinking that's the
yeah,
way to be or something. Anyway, um, yeah,
I love that. Thank
yeah.
you, Jill. Palon, how are you doing?
There's a lot to digest in this one.
Mm,
I feel, and yeah, because I was taking notes, but I think one thing for me in the immediate short term is I've been exhibiting a lot of a sleep behavior recently. Part of it is because of pressure at job, part of it is other stuff going on. And so as Mushtaq was talking about things, just reflecting on my own behavior and how much even on days where I kind of remember that I should be doing this stuff, whether it's breathing, like not during Tai Chi, but like when I'm at the job,
mhm.
sitting there at the computer, when I have a deadline or when I have other people there. Um, some days are better than others. Some days I remember to breathe. Some days I remember to slow down. Some days I, like maybe once in the blue moon, I remember self-remembering while I'm at the job. But that doesn't happen very often. And so, yeah, I'm just reflecting on how can I feel like I've been doing the work. I feel like I've been also spinning around a lot recently. And just how do I pull myself back when there's so much distraction everywhere?
Yeah, relatable, little Palon. I'm sure many people who are either sitting here right now or going to be watching this are thinking the same thing, like, wow, I am definitely invested in this, but I am struggling to to do the thing
Yeah.
or to apply it in every circumstance. And I think that that just, we start with the easy stuff. And I know job can be particularly, let's say, disembodying, disconnecting. So that means it's kind of like the boss tier of applying these knowings. It's not that you don't know them, it's just that it is tougher there. Yeah. Thank you, Palin. Mhm. All right, Mushtaq, what about you? You got any last tidbits you want to share?
Um, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So if Gurdjieff's meaning sounds something that approximates your own, you do not have to go and search through mountainous regions of Central Asia trying to find the higher truths, you can, if you wish, go through the body of practices that we have put up on this here YouTube channel, find the ones that work for you, and use them. See what happens. If you want to take it further, Noor and I are available to help you either set up groups yourself, coach you in how to do this stuff, and generally make your life a little bit easier. If you're really crazy, you might talk to us about the Sufi work that we do.
Yay. Thank you,
So
Mushtaq.
that's
Yes,
my
well
thought.
put. Well put. All right. I think that's all I got too. I really appreciate everything that you guys have shared and the questions you've asked and I mean, you've given me a lot to think about too, in addition to the topic of the discussion. So much appreciated to all of you. All right. Are you ready to wrap up,
Switch to Brady
Mushtaq?
Bunch mode.
Brady Bunch mode time. Yes. Lovely.
Voila.
Okay. Make sure I can see all of you. All right. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. Thank you to everyone who hung out with us on the replay. It's so good to spend this time with you. We will be at our usual time of 6:30 p.m. Pacific time next Sunday, and we hope to see you there. Thanks
And God
again.
knows what we're going to talk about.
Yeah,
I'm just
we'll
waiting for
figure
him
it
to
out.
tell us.
Yeah. All right, we can wave to each other, wave to everybody watching. We'll see you again soon.